all seed companies, whether they're mail order, online, whatever, have experienced unprecedented number of orders, and most of us are pretty overwhelmed. So if you order seeds, it is going to take a lot longer to get them, and many of us are running out of 2020 packed seeds for that, because we've all packed a certain number of seeds for the spring season and we're all running through them. But there is no seed shortage. It's sort of like the toilet paper issue. There were very good harvests of seed all over the world last year. It's really a matter of us just being all overwhelmed. So if you're one of the people that's noticing it's taking 2 or 3 weeks to get your seed order instead of 5 or 10 days, everybody is in the same boat. And I'm past president of the Home Garden Seed Association, and I felt like I ought to tell people that, because people are really wondering what's going on. So that's what's going on.
Well, thanks for mentioning that and that there is no seed shortage, and that does happen occasionally. I think California poppies, there was a crop failure or something one year or something, and you can't offer that, but that is not happening now. And I just got emails yesterday from Botanical Interests and Territorial Seeds saying exactly what you're saying. They're going to kind of suspend orders for a couple weeks and get caught up, and so same thing all over.
This is a really good year to try something new, because some of your old favorites are going to be sold out pretty much everywhere. So if you've always grown, Stu Piche or Stu Peace tomato, this might be a time to try Superbush, another short season one or another one. That's all. So, but on the other hand, the good news is there's millions of new gardeners. I'm hoping that they'll get the bug.
As we're now saying, gardening is essential. So. And the good news here in Alaska is I've been to a couple nurseries, and your seed racks are in there with a good selection. So if they're not ordering online, you can get them locally if you're comfortable going out. Most of the nurseries haven't been very crowded when I've been there, so there's plenty of distancing, and they are pretty well stocked. So, but that's a great idea about trying something new.
Yeah, a lot in the lower 48 here. A lot of nurseries have gone where you order online or call in an order and then pick it up curbside. So most nurseries and garden centers nationwide have had their seeds in their hands before this all happened. So they are relatively well stocked, but shop early because they won't be able to get more stock. But other than that, I do think there's a good supply out there in stores. Good point.
Good. Yeah, I think so too. You mentioned short season. Boy, that's us all over the place. So maybe we can touch on that today as we chat. But we should go through your website. But I definitely would like to touch on short season and maybe containers and things. Not everybody has a big area that they can grow in, but you've got so many great selections for containers. And you and I were talking about, I like vines, flowering vines, but there are many food items that can be grown vertically too. And I wrote an article for our newsletter about vertical growing, kind of concentrating on flowers of it, because you have such a great selection of beautiful flowering vines. But I think really our focus today should, even though flowers are good for our soul, I think we should really talk about food too.
Well, Patrick, you were talking about the fact that I'm very long in the tooth in the seed business, which is true. And that's one of the biggest.
I didn't say that.
But that is one of the biggest changes that we've seen in more recent times. There's a huge emphasis on growing in pots and containers, which I think is great. As a response to that, our company, Renee's Garden, really focuses and features varieties for containers. And on our website, we have a whole page of them in one place, but we usually try to have as many container varieties as we can. And by that, I mean varieties that are compact and therefore easier to grow in a container. And in the case of some of them, just easier to harvest. So for example, we carry a French bush bean called Muscat that the French developed because most of the beans happen on the top of the plant, and it's a compact plant. So breeders have done a lot to accommodate those needs. But then on the other extreme, or you can certainly grow a vine in a pot, there's a lot of great, to get back to what you were saying, there are a lot of great vegetables that you can let climb up that sometimes we don't always think of.
Right, and your vines too can hang in a pot and trail down. They don't need to climb up too. You've got some beautiful nasturtiums, the trailing nasturtiums, that phoenix variety, wonderful in hanging baskets. And that's a thing for us in Alaska too. We have a short season, so we like color in our face, and that's our hanging basket. So we're big into those.
Well, I think Anchorage is just known for its garden of hanging baskets. It's pretty fabulous. I've been there a couple times now and really enjoyed that.
Yeah, very good. Well, why don't we take a little tour around the website? I'm going to have Stacy back in the studio. Go ahead and kind of lead us around here. So right on the splash page here, are you on this too, Renee?
I am.
Okay, so, well, you know what it looks like, but you've got a tab and nice pictures for vegetables, herbs, and flowers right there, a tab for shop our entire catalog. But on the left is something to really point out, our new seed introductions. So what have you got that's new and exciting? There's some amazing colors there.
Yeah, well, we have really tried to focus on growing vegetables that are really great for micronutrients and antioxidant qualities, and so our new introductions really reflects that this year. So we have a purple cauliflower that's really wonderful and doesn't lose its color. It happens currently to be sold out, but it's probably still in nurseries. We introduced 2 new kales this year because they are fast and easy to grow and a really good vegetable for your climate, obviously. One's called Purple Moon and one called Mars Landing. Baby spaghetti squash, a new pepper, some small little watermelons, and some sugar cube little mini cantaloupes. The fact that these are small and they're single serving fruits means that they are also a lot earlier.
And that's
so that
another
was just
thing.
some of our things.
Yeah, that's another thing for Alaska. We went early, and I think going with smaller things, it's hard to grow a giant beefsteak tomato, but we can surely do cherry tomatoes and things. And the compact varieties are great. With some years that we've been using in the schools, Little Hero or the window box basil have performed so well indoors in schools in containers, and we've had great luck with those. So I'm excited about this sugar cube cantaloupe too. Too bad it's sold out. I'll get it next year.
Well, you may find some in the nursery.
Oh, that's true.
But if you click on the vegetables and then look on the left-hand side, there's a drop-down, and we can look at 2 things in the drop-down: the cut and come again baby leaf sampler.
Oh, yeah.
Because those are varieties we have where you sow them quickly like grass seed over the top of the container, cover them lightly, let them grow 4 or 5 inches tall, and then cut them with the scissors, leaving about 1 inch in the ground, and then they'll grow again for a second harvest. So they're perfect for fast, nutritious crops and great in containers. And here, this is a page featuring some of our specialties in that direction if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah, and those out on the deck are great in a little window box. I love those. It's a window box that fits over railings. It's not going to blow away or tip over. Those are great. You could go right outside and talk. We have a saying in Alaska for Alaska grown food: fresher by far. But if you cut it like 1 minute ago, how fresh is that right off the back deck? So great for containers, great fresh greens right there. And there's a wonderful video. And as we keep going down here, I think that will the video tabs come up on this one? No, we can find those elsewhere.
Well, this page just lists a lot of our cut and come again. So you can grow by this fast cut and come again method, either in a raised bed or in a container, any number of mesclines or cutting mixes or baby leaf mixes, and we have a lot of them. But we have a stir fry blend, we have a baby leaf chard, a baby leaf kale, a baby leaf spinach. And so those are all really good. A braising mix, Asian greens, mild mustard. So there's a lot of choice to grow by cut and come again. But you were mentioning videos, and on our website, if you go up to the top of any page, in the left-hand side, there's Shop Our Catalog, which takes you back to the beginning. But if you hit gardening resources, which is on the top of any page, that is where we have all our articles and the many videos we've made on a variety of how-to topics. And we make them in our trial garden here, and our trial garden manager, Lindsay, makes them. So for example, there's a video on planting vegetables in containers, and growing by the cut and chem again method, which I've just been talking about. There's 3 or 4 videos on that, and they're really short and really focus on that one topic. So we try to be a good resource for new gardeners or people trying new things. And our gardening resources has just a huge number of articles and videos.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things is that first thing right there about seed information, because, and you know, I talked a little bit about that earlier, but I've got a couple of your packets right here. I've got the purple basil, purple opal basil, and if you can see that, there are 235 seeds in here. That should be enough to share. Here's the baby leaf lettuce heirloom cutting mix, 1,400 seeds. So you really don't need, you know, 5 packs of some of these things. And I always mention people, it was sort of like the old phrase, I can't believe I ate the whole thing, that old commercial. I can't believe I planted the whole thing. One of your tomato packs has 50 seeds in it. You really don't need 50 plants unless you're growing to share. Plant a row for the hungry, or with our new Anchor Garden program, people are going to try and start sharing starts. But one packet is going to last you a while.
Well, let's talk about that. First of all, seeds can be saved from season to season by keeping the closed packet in a cool, dry place, not outdoors, but just in a place that you would be comfortable, not too hot and not too humid, which is not too much of a problem where you guys are. But so you can save extra seeds. And then the number of seed in a packet is more a sense of tradition. Most of us try to provide enough seeds so that a family of 4 to 6 will have ample amounts, with some left over in case the cat walks over the seedling and kills it. And some of it's tradition, like everyone puts 20 to 40 seeds of tomatoes usually in a packet because we always have. I'm not sure exactly where some of the traditions came up, but every packet has ample seeds. Remember too that not all seeds germinate, even if they have high viability when they are produced by the seed producer. For example, fruity seeds like tomatoes, eggplants, and peppers do have high germinations in the 90%. But a parsnip seed, if it germinates at 60% or 70%, that's pretty good germination for a parsnip seed. Lettuce is about 85%. Beans are about 82 to 88%. So not every seed will germinate, and it's always better to plant a little thicker and then take out the seedlings, leaving the best seedlings at the spacing suggested on the packet. And I write all the packet backs for our company, and I try to give very complete growing information on things like how many to plant and how to thin them back.
Yeah, people can find all that in your resources, and those videos are great. I watched your cut and come again one the other day. It's so simple. You really can't go wrong. You know, another one of my favorite resources for you, and it might be under one of these tabs, is using recycled containers. So maybe some people aren't comfortable about getting out and picking up new seed flats and all the growing materials. And there's certainly a good use for your produce containers and clamshell items. So I love that article.
Yeah, there's no reason that you have to buy stuff to start seeds in. A huge number of things you already have will work fine, and our little video shows how to do that. You just need to make sure you got some holes for drainage and they're tall enough to hold the seed and they have enough volume. But otherwise, anything from cottage cheese containers to clamshells, any number of things. That's a good little video we made because it's easy to do.
Yeah, that is easy. What else? Some of my favorites, I told you, are poppies. And I'm in love with those. So Stacy, can we go over there to flowers on the left for a second? We'll show you how easy it is to find these things. So we click on flowers, and I don't know if there's a specific one for poppies. Well, you know what? Let's look at sweet peas, because
Well,
that's a,
yeah, I mean, if you go to shop our catalog, which is up top on every page,
okay.
then you go to the drop down for flowers, then scroll down. They're alphabetically listed. So if you wanted to go to poppies, that's how you'd get to
Yeah,
poppies.
there we go.
So are you there?
We're getting there. Poppies. Yep, here we go. Oh, look at these. These things are so beautiful. They'll grow, you know, from a foot to 3 feet tall. They're like really delicate looking, like crepe paper or tissue paper. See, there's that one, the crop failure on the dancing ballerinas. So that sometimes happens. That's not the case this year.
I think we had crop failures on just 2 things this year, which means that we placed a seed order for it to get grown last year. And for one reason or another, they did not succeed in harvesting the crop. And this one, and I usually go look somewhere else for the seed to see if anyone else has produced. So this one, there's only one company that makes this, so I have to wait till next year. But I'd like to point, everyone's familiar with all the different California poppies. They do come in an awfully lot of wonderful colors. But a couple of my favorites would be a little farther down. I think it's in the second row, which would be Shirley poppies, which are really totally fabulous and bloom for a really long time and will often self-sow nicely. And if you look on, let's look at Shirley poppies falling in love.
Got it.
And if you click on that one and see the description and the picture of the packet, and below it shows click to view images. And if you click on that, you'll see a whole bunch of pictures we took in our trial garden the last time we grew it out.
Wow.
And if you click on each picture, then it'll enlarge it. And you can see how beautiful they are. I don't need to ramble on. I think the pictures speak for themselves.
And the fun part about poppies is they make that cool seed pod, which you can let dry, and those seeds can self-sow sometimes. And saving the little seed pods, I just stick them in a vase and I have something to remind me of summer over the winter. I think they're attractive.
Well, Shirley poppies and California poppies, those seed pods open, they're harder to save. So the kind of seeds you want to save would be the birdseed poppies, or the kind that you use for confectionery, carnation poppies. The ones with the big seed pods is what I think you have in mind, right?
Right, exactly. Yep. I'm growing French flounce carnation poppies right now, and I've got some Lawrence grapes started also.
And those both of those make really nice seed pods, and you can save them and then save the seed and give it to your friends and spread them around.
Yep. Hey, I asked you a couple years ago, I think, about this. I have a greenhouse. I'm lucky, and it's heated, so we get an early start, which I think is important in Alaska. Some of the poppies I just sow without cells, but just in a flat, just try and scatter them thinly. And to save space in the greenhouse, sometimes I will sow a flat that drains and just leave it outside, and even in the winter. But traditionally, some plants need that stratification, that cold period. And I had asked before if you thought these really needed that, or are they pre-chilled, or do you have any information on that?
Poppies don't really need stratification of extreme cold. We grow them both in our Vermont trail garden and here in Northern California, and the coldest it gets here is 25 degrees. I mean, above zero.
Right.
So yes, we get huge drifts of self-sowing poppies. So no, they don't need it.
Okay. Sometimes I do that fall planting and just leave them outside, and it doesn't seem to hurt them. And then those flats just come up as soon as they're ready in the spring, and I don't use greenhouse space. So
I certainly think poppies can be sown either in fall or early spring to overwinter. I certainly am no expert in parts of Alaska where it gets exceedingly cold, but I know, so I can't speak to that, but I think poppies can handle the cold in the ground.
Yeah, I think so too. Another thing on the package information, I love that you have the Latin names, and I always add those to my labels. On my plant labels, I write the name of the plant. I write the Latin name because that's a way you can learn a little bit more as you go along. I write the date, and I write for you, I write RG, so I knew it was a Renee's Garden seed. So my label tells a story.
Well, we supply botanical names for flowers and herbs, not for vegetables, because all tomatoes are basically all the same species.
Right.
I find the Latin names really helpful since common names vary really from region to region to state. So you could be talking about the same flower and you both use a different common name. That's when you really get it in handy. And it's kind of fun over time to identify something by its proper botanical name. So I agree with you.
Yeah, that's fun. And, I've been working on a new presentation I'd like to develop is that every plant tells a story. So if you know the Latin name, you look up the etymology, which is what those names mean in Latin or Greek, or maybe there's even a further back origin, and you get to learn some of those words that are almost our English words that are very similar. So expands your vocabulary too.
Yeah, and a lot of varieties are named after people who found them, who are usually pretty interesting people with interesting stories.
Yeah. So, for instance, I'm just thinking about, we say Forsythia, but the gentleman's name was Forsyth. So in England, you would say Forsythia, but I don't think we're going to change. But that's why you do pronounce it. Like Bergenia. There was a Count von Bergen, and it was named after. So it's a hard G, Bergenia. We call it pig squeak up here.
Yeah, that's a really good example why Latin names can be really both interesting, pretty fascinating, but also usable, because you might call it pig squeak and everyone knows it is pig squeak, but in North Carolina they call it crow's beard. You just don't know. So that's a way of identifying. People say, well, what's the Latin for? And it's so that everybody can talk a common language when it comes to plants.
So Renee, on this page run with the Shirley poppies right now, we've got a great little blurb here, beautiful pictures, which are watercolors made right from your gardens, I understand, as well as the photos. And then we've got a H symbol and a B symbol. What the heck are those?
That means that they're heirlooms and they're pollinator friendly.
I suspected they might. So let's talk a second about heirlooms. That's such a buzzword.
Sure. Heirlooms are varieties or cultivars that are more than 50 years old. And they're all open pollinated, which means they are not a cross that someone's made between two plants. Many common vegetable varieties that we all love, like sun gold cherry tomatoes or big boy beefsteak tomatoes, are made by human beings crossing a particular variety of the male flowers from one species or cultivar with female flowers from another, so that they get a cross. It's not genetic engineering, it's just traditional breeding. Heirlooms are all old open pollinated varieties, which means that the plants have been reproduced naturally by having their pollen spread by wind or pollinating insects like bees and bumblebees and so on. Or some plants are self-fruitful. In other words, they have both male and female parts. Tomatoes are one of those.
Yeah, and the easy thing to remember on the heirlooms is if you had an heirloom tomato and you save those seeds, you can grow that same one. If it's hybrid, it will come out to be something else. So
you can save the seeds of heirlooms because they're open pollinated. So all heirlooms are open pollinated, but not all open pollinated seeds are heirlooms because they may not be old enough. It's simply a criteria of aged. A lot of heirlooms used to be varieties that were saved by individuals and families and passed down. But now it's a pretty big business, and you can get heirloom tomatoes at your local supermarket. So it's a designator of an older variety that may have special traits and wonderful stories, but it's usually not too widely adopted. So people in cool seasons, for example, can't grow big heirloom tomatoes because they will crack and they won't finish. So hybrids have a real place in a home garden. I always think people should grow both.
Yeah, sounds good. And with just that language on your resources tab, if you go down to the 7th one, they're not actually numbered, but if you go down there, it's called Seed Buying 101, the Gardener's Seed Glossary, and you explain all these things. But let's while we're on this page here, wait, Stacy, go back up a little bit. I wanted to look at the rest of this page. So this is like the back of the seed packet. This is exactly what's on the seed packet, which you should be studying before you get out kneeling down in the garden and getting ready to plant. You should have a label made, and you should have some idea of where these are going to go.
Renee Shepherd, she's the one who did Renee's Seeds and the other seed company that was bought out.
Renee's Garden is my current company. I used to have a mail order company that was purchased by White Flower Farm, and they didn't keep it going, but that's a really long time ago now. I sold it in 1996, and it lasted till about 1999. Renee's Garden is online. We don't have a mail order company, but I like it better because I can add and subtract things and have newsletters and provide a lot more help for gardeners.
Yeah, this is my go-to site, and I'll tell everybody that. And we mentioned that your seed racks are in the stores if people are comfortable getting out. I think getting out in the fresh air is probably good. You can find quite a few of these, and there's a little bit of change in the in-stock supply, but quite a bit in the stores still. So we're good. So this is the back of the seed packet, basically. Tells you what to do. This is an annual, so you have to plant it yearly. Best to start directly in the garden, so direct sown. These you don't normally start indoors. You can thin or transplant, and I have found they don't transplant well. I'll tell you what I do though. I sow them in a flat, and when they're ready, I just dig out chunks and plant the chunks. And I'll lose a few around the edges, but if I get them watered in and leveled out with soil, I've had pretty good luck doing that. So just again, I'm a poppy fan, and as you go down a little bit more, that's the rest of the label right there. Lots of great information, and each one can be found on the catalog page for very specific information.
Well, the advantage of using a good website is if you do happen to not save your packet, or somehow it gets wet or whatever, you can always see all the growing instructions, which we take great pains to write, online. You can see everything online and check it and see if there's any articles or pictures that you want to check out, or videos.
Yeah, great idea. Good if people maybe start a journal every year, a little garden journal. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. You can save your seed packets, or as you say, we can look it up and see what else is there. You've commented before on sweet peas for Alaska, and I'm talking about the flowering ones, although the super sweet, right off the bush peas are so easy to grow too. That's something I think everybody should be growing here in Alaska. But I seem to recall that you were advising us to start our sweet peas pretty early, and that's definitely a favorite Alaska flower. Yeah,
sweet pea seeds germinate in cool conditions, and the seedlings can take light frost, so you can start them very early, and that way you'll get blooms earlier. They're really wonderful because sweet peas have a fragrance like nothing else. never been imitated. There's no sweet pea perfume. You got to grow your own. And there are container varieties of sweet peas too. We sell a couple of them.
Yeah, that little container snap pea one is pretty cute looking little plant. So here are the flowering sweet peas. So just if people don't know, there are edible vegetable sweet peas and there are flowering sweet peas. So
they're really different. Edible peas are different species. They have a different botanical name and they have edible pods. Sweet peas that you grow for ornamental purposes are not edible, and you only grow them for their flowers. So I want to make sure we're very, very clear about that. They're not the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I don't want anybody planning on peas for dinner and they're not coming out of these guys. Look at that electric blue one. That's so nice.
So
and what a smell.
We tend to call them sweet peas and then call the ones you eat garden peas.
Okay, that's a good distinction there. And these, again, can go in hanging baskets and trail down. That way they're easier to smell, too. Or climbing up something, you can rig up a little simple bamboo stick tripod type thing or some kind of netting. Let these guys climb. That's what they do well.
Well, let me show you a couple. We have a couple that are really made for containers because they don't get as long and hang down as much. So if you look at if you're looking at sweet peas and you look at the second row, there's Color Palette Cupid on the left-hand side. And if you look at the pictures of that, you'll see what it looks like in a container.
There it is. Well, let's click on that one. It's so easy to do. Do your research before you can get outside. There it is. And when we go down, we'll see some pictures.
Yeah, if you click on the pictures individually, it'll make them bigger so you can get a good look.
Wow.
And then, yeah, that's a good one. And then if you scroll down a little farther, go back to the list of varieties with packet fronts and click on Window Box Sweet Peas Heirloom Cupid. The first picture there shows what it looks like when it's growing in a nice big container. And this would be probably about 6 or 7 seedlings. Can you see that one?
Not the Color Palette Cupid?
No, if you go back, okay, you looked at that, but I want to show you one more.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you go back to the category page, which shows all the packet fronts, and then scroll down a little farther down the page, there's another container variety at the
Heirloom Cupid.
Yeah, click on that one. And then click on the first picture.
I just want to stick my face in there.
Yeah, those are very fragrant. And it's an old heirloom that was discovered by accident by the Berry Seed Company about in the 20s. And it's very, very fragrant. The other one you looked at are also Cupid sweet peas, which are these short ones in different colors. This one is just pink and white. It's really pretty and very fragrant.
Ooh, good to know. That's
but now I want to show you my favorite sweet pea.
I was going to ask you about that.
Okay, so if you go back to the sweet pea category page, which shows all the packet fronts, and then I want to show you, well, a couple of favorites. The most fragrant sweet pea that we have is at the very top, the middle packet called April in Paris.
Uh-oh, there's some insider info here. April in Paris, most fragrant.
And if you click on that, that was bred by Dr. Keith Hammett. He lives in New Zealand now, but he's a sweet pea breeder. And and if you click on the first picture, you'll get a good sense. It's a pastel with, it's a light lavender with darker lavender tips. And if you click on the pictures, you'll see how beautiful it is. And it's intensely fragrant. A little jar, put these in a mason jar in your kitchen and it'll smell up the whole room.
That's beautiful. And
then my other favorite is if you scroll down to Spencer Ruffled. It's let's see, it's in the third row down in the middle.
There he is.
And if you click on that packet and then click on the pictures, you'll see how gorgeous that is.
Wow. All
And
those colors, that's a mix, so all those colors are in there?
yeah, and those are seeds that we get from England. And these Spencer sweet peas are all large, ruffled sweet peas, and they all happened from a particular flower that was discovered by chance. And the Earl of Spencer's estate in England in, I think, 1907 or so on. And because the flowers are larger and more ruffled. And these sweet peas come from a very old English company that still breeds them for beautiful colors. So if you click on the second picture, you see all the colors they come in.
Gosh, that's wonderful. I'm hoping you get a spike in orders right from Alaska right now.
Well, sweet peas are my favorite. They used to be called they used to have a huge commercial popularity, and people would ship them all over the country in the 20s and 30s. And after, when the Second World War happened, they went away as a big commercial item. And it's hard to find lots of varieties now, but they're fabulous, fabulous flowers. It was very long history. And the nice thing about sweet peas is they're all open pollinated, and you can save your own seeds. So if you grow a row of sweet peas and you have one flower that's, with the help of the bees or other pollinators, is mutated slightly, you can just save the seeds and start your own variety.
Nice, great. Well, Renee, again, one of my favorite things are vines, and that was my newsletter article for the Botanical Garden, but I was kind of talking to you about veggies for vertical growing. Can we go there, or are you having some suggestions for that? I just think that's an underused technique for us in Alaska, using vertical space.
Well, if you like beans, then you should plant some bush beans for earlier varieties, but slightly later pole beans take up very little space and are hugely productive with producing lots and lots of beans over a long period. And of course, you don't have to bend down to pick them, so they have an added advantage.
Definitely.
And I would plant the little mini pumpkins. They are a full month earlier than regular pumpkins, and they make really pretty trellises. And we also sell winter squash can also be trellised, even kabocha, big squash, and honey nut, and all kinds of winter squash will happily, if you're not growing the huge monster Hubbards, but if you're growing butternut squash, you can trellis those up as well. And we sell a climbing Italian summer squash called trombetta, which tastes a lot like zucchini. And it makes, if you want to go to summer squash and look at that, that's another really fun one to grow up on a vine. It's an old Italian heirloom. You want to look at that?
Yeah, there's squash coming up.
Okay.
And summer squash.
Okay, I'm going to go with you on my computer too.
Okay, top 3 sold out.
Yeah, you can see how much more vegetables are sold out. A lot of stuff is sold out, whereas flowers are still, there's a lot of availability. But if you go to that trombetta and click on the pictures, you'll see what they look like on trellis, the first picture.
And just remind people that locally, probably some of these are still in the stores here.
Yes, I think so. So that is growing on a mesh, just a wire mesh that's attached to that white board fence. And you can see what the fruits look like. And the next picture shows them in a basket. And the seeds are only in the bulb. And the rest of it, you can just slice up. It tastes like a really nutty flavored zucchini. So that one's, and you harvest them when they are this big. And you harvest them just like this. You don't let them get hard like a winter squash. They really are used like summer squash.
Wow, that's an interesting.
So that's a good one. And then the other one I really recommend is that you trellis your cucumbers up. They much prefer to grow up, and the fruits will be straighter and hang better. They'll get better air circulation and have less mildew. So I would totally suggest growing cucumbers as climbing vines.
Yeah. Well, we had such a hot summer last year. I think we didn't really know, and then we don't know what it's going to be this year, but I think we have a chance to grow some of the warmer climate type of things, and it's sure worth a try anyway.
Well, they will get ready much sooner too because they get more sun. Another one to grow if you like Mexican food is grow your own tomatillos. They're earlier than tomatoes. They vine all over. Happy to grow in a trellis.
Oh, good. I think we've got some of those seeds. Yeah, there they are.
So if you want to go to that packet, they have their own category, and we mix a purple one and a green one. But they make great salsa, and they're really pretty, and they're really easy to grow. You kind of plant them, they come up, and they go crazy, and they vine perfectly.
That's a great idea. Do you have some recipes for this in your book, which we didn't mention?
I do, and
I thought you might.
any kind of green salsa is great. There's lots of things you can do with tomatillos. They make great salsa. You can make a chili verde sauce for chicken or pork. It's easy to find recipes for them, and I do have some in my books. Absolutely.
All right. And Renee, where do we find that book?
Well, those were not out of, so you can find it online. If you look at the drop down and click on cookbooks, on the drop down to the left of every page, you'll see them.
Okay, good to know.
And each book is a different collections organized by vegetable types. So if you have all of a sudden a ton of arugula, you can look up arugula recipes or broccoli recipes or cauliflower recipes, whatever you have a lot of.
There's cookbooks.
And then if you scroll down on that page, there should be a link. If you scroll on our newest one, the Renee's Garden Cookbook, you can look at a few samples pages to see what it looks like.
I didn't realize there were more. We have the basic one, I guess. You've been busy.
Yeah, I think I need to, I will send you one of these. I did not realize you didn't have one.
I've got I've got that one. We had those. Yeah, great.
Okay, which ones don't you have?
The others, I think you brought a bunch of these when you visited, and we sold them at your talk.
Okay, but you don't have the
I don't have more and Kitchen Garden.
Okay. You don't have the beige one and the green one?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
I will make sure you get some.
Oh, thank you. That'll be handy to have. And Stacy's our resident cook at the office, so when we get back to doing that, we'll definitely test some of these out.
Okay.
It'll be fun. Well, we're getting on in time here. We don't want to keep you too long or keep everyone, but we do have a couple questions, I think. I see a couple in the chat. I wonder if we could take a couple questions.
Okay.
Stacy, can you work your magic?
Pat, if you're able to see the questions, will you ask those? For some reason,
Okay.
Mine is not bringing it up.
All right, I'm gonna, okay. From Mason, growing up, my mom always soaked the sweet peas. Oh yeah. Soak the sweet peas before planting, Mason is asking. Is that necessary with these?
Well, a lot of people do soak them. We did some extensive trials on 3 different methods. We tried freezing the sweet peas, we tried soaking the sweet peas overnight, and we tried clipping them with the little nail clippers to open a little tear in the seed coat, and that's what works better than anything else. Sweet peas are not tremendous germinators, so you probably, if you get 60 to 80% germ, it's good. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's that low. Depends on when they were harvested, and since most sweet peas are grown by small companies, we have to take what we can get. But to increase their germination, and I don't put this on the packet so much because I think a lot of beginning gardeners wouldn't be bothered, but if you take a little nail clippers and then just make a little tear in the seed itself, and it's not so hard if you're just planting 1 packet, they will germinate much faster. Soaking works okay, but we did not notice a huge perceptible difference.
Oh, that's good to know. I do soak some of the vines that I plant, the hyacinth bean, boy, and they'll sprout in almost a day, it seems like, and then plant the sprouts. So, but
What you're doing by soaking them is to soften the seed coat,
right.
Which works to varying degrees. If you clip the seed coat or sandpaper it a little, and we have found holding a seed and trying to apply sandpaper to it takes a lot more skill than most of us. It takes a lot of dexterity. So just clipping them works great. You certainly, I wouldn't, on the other hand, as it is with all gardening things, if it works for you, then keep doing it.
I think that's definitely the way to go. Very good. Well, Renee, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us today. And as we mentioned, I have seen seed racks in at least 2 stores, and I'll go ahead and say it's Bell's and Diamond Greenhouse. And of course, the local folks could use your business. But Renee is really my go-to place for information and those seed packets and all the videos and everything. And Renee, I want to ask you one more thing. What keeps you going? What motivates you in this seed business?
Well, I think gardening is one of the most meaningful, fun, and terrific kind of pastimes and makes a huge difference in the world. And I have been blessed to have a career where I can spread the word about gardening from seed. So it's really the customers and the people I hear from. I'm sure that I would have retired long ago if I sold towels or teacups or anything else. It's the seeds that keep me going. And the fact that it's a good excuse to have a huge garden.
Yeah. And did you mention you're president of HGSA now?
I'm past president and still on the board, and that's just a trade group for home garden seed companies. Just about all of us are family owned and not that huge, so we try and keep in touch with each other.
Okay, that's another good resource, the Home Garden Seed Association, HGSA. If you just Google that, you'll find them, and that's a great place to.
Oh, Patrick,
yes.
I remember before we talked, you wanted me to mention, so everyone who's participating knows there really are no genetically engineered seeds in the home garden market. Our customers don't want them, and even if we had a strong desire to sell them, we couldn't because they have to be licensed and there's so much regulation around them. So if you buy a packet of seeds, we all say no GMO because people want to be reassured, but there are no genetically modified seeds in the home garden seed market. So you don't have to worry about that at all.
That's good to know. One less thing to worry about, huh?
Yes.
Well, you take care, and we'll be in touch. And again, I appreciate all the support for our school programs from your business, and all your folks are great down there, and you guys have been very helpful in many ways. And
okay, thank you. I hope to visit you again, and I'll send you a couple more cookbooks. A pleasure.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you so much. All right,
Bye.
take care. Bye. All right, well, I guess we are done unless we're going to take a few more questions if we can do that. So, oh, great. Yeah, Julie, I just saw that. I don't know if Renee can still hear us, but yeah, it's a great site. And again, the seeds are available locally. Diamond and Bell's definitely has some. That's the only 2 places I've been so far. Probably heading out to P&M on the weekend.
Pat, will you make sure that you repeat the question that you're reading just in case someone else can't see it?
Yeah, Julie just asked, she says, I can't wait to shop your site. I was talking to Renee. And then the question was about soaking your peas, and that's the way I do it, but I may go ahead and snip them this year. If you're clipping seeds or sanding them down, you'll see which side the little root area, the little baby plant is going to be in. So you don't want to nick that part. You want to nick the big fat seed food part, and that should be fairly